A star in the constellation Orion is dimmer than it has been in 100 years. Hi again, welcome back to Plain English, the best podcast for learning English. I'm Jeff, and JR is the producer. This is episode 222, and you can find the full transcript of this program at plainenglish.com/222. Coming up today, Betelgeuse, a red supergiant star that makes up Orion's shoulder, is dimmer than it has been in 100 years. By the way, dim is the opposite of bright, and stars of this type tend to lose their brightness right before they explode. So, is that about to happen? Is Orion about to lose his shoulder? That's what we'll explore in the first part of today's episode. In the second half, we'll talk about the expression ebb and flow, and we have a quote of the week. One thing that listeners consistently tell me is that they love the topics on the program. If you ever find yourself thinking, I loved today's topic, I wish I could learn more about it, then you're in luck. Every Monday and Thursday, JR sends out an email with links to the English language articles I use to prepare the show. It's a great way to learn more about your favorite episode topics and to practice your English reading at the same time. If you'd like to practice your English reading and engage more with our topics, then make sure you're on our email list. Just visit plainenglish.com/mail, M-A-I-L, and enter your details. Life changes quickly down on Earth, so sometimes it's comforting to know that if you look up at the night sky, the familiar patterns of the heavens are unchanging. Whatever is going on down here, we're just a speck in the universe. The night sky will always follow the same patterns, show us the same stars, remind us of our fixed position among these celestial bodies. Except it's not really that way. Our lives are so short, relatively speaking, that we don't live to witness big changes in the universe. And those of us without telescopes can only see just a little bit of the universe anyway. But every now and then, there is a visible change in the night sky that reminds us of the changes happening far, far away. One of those changes may be happening now. If you're like me, you probably learned about the constellation Orion. It is among the three most recognizable constellations, named after a hunter in Greek mythology. It is visible from every part of the world and is clearest from January to March. One of its stars, called Betelgeuse, is the dimmest it has been in almost 100 years. The star is the second brightest in the constellation and is typically the ninth brightest star in the sky. But in October, it started dimming, and by last month, it wasn't even in the top 20 brightest stars in the sky. Now, not all stars are equally bright all the time. A variable star is one whose brightness ebbs and flows, and Betelgeuse is known to be this kind of a star. But the reduction in its brightness is such that astronomers are starting to wonder if something big might be about to happen. Perhaps it's more accurate to say that astronomers wonder if we're about to see something happen. After all, if something happens on Betelgeuse, we wouldn't see it until 600 years later. So what might happen? Betelgeuse is a red supergiant. That means it's large in terms of volume. If it were in the place of the sun, it would be so big that the Earth would be inside it. But it's not large in terms of mass. Compared to other stars, the surface is relatively cool, and these stars live short but tumultuous lives. Betelgeuse is about 8.5 million years old, relatively young for a star, but is nearing the end of its life. It will die in a massive explosion called a supernova, the result of a series of nuclear reactions. If that happens to Betelgeuse, the supernova would be visible from Earth. For a short period of time, it would be brighter than the moon and would be visible during the day. After that, it would be gone. All its mass pushed out into the rest of the universe, and Orion would be without a shoulder. Is that about to happen? It's impossible to know. Betelgeuse tends to follow patterns of brightness. One longer-term pattern repeats about every 6 years. Another shorter pattern repeats every 425 days. So this could simply be a more pronounced example of the star's normal variation. One astronomer says this is nothing special. He says that the star happens to be at its dimmest point in both its normal cycles, making it appear especially dim. Chances are that Orion will remain intact for all of our lifetimes. Scientists think that the star will explode in the next 1,000,000 years, and perhaps in the next 10,000 years. But there's a small chance we'll see it. The most recent supernova to be visible from Earth was in 1604, named after the German astronomer Johannes Kepler. It was visible during the day for over 3 weeks, and descriptions of it appear in European, Chinese, Korean, and Arabic texts. I learned about astronomy as a kid, and I remember looking up at the sky and not seeing anything. I mean, the Big Dipper, sure. The Little Dipper, all right. But I didn't see a hunter. Orion is a hunter. I didn't see a hunter. I certainly didn't see a ram, Aries. I didn't see a queen, Cassiopeia, twins, Gemini, or a lion, Leo. I remember looking up and seeing a jumbled mass of stars, and grown-ups trying to convince me that if you looked just right at the right combination of stars, then you could see these figures. I just didn't get it. Perhaps it was their relationship to Greek mythology. I absolutely hated Greek mythology as a kid, and maybe that spoiled the constellations for me. Who knows? Today's expression is to ebb and flow. I would not call this common, but you should know what it means, and it's a good one to talk about because it's not really clear what it means from the words. To ebb and flow. Let me just say up front that you'll probably never need to use the word ebb, spelled E-B-B, unless it's in this phrase. Maybe once every 2 years, I'll see the word ebb unattached to the word flow. So my advice is to just think of this as one expression, to ebb and flow. Here's how you heard it earlier. The brightness of a variable star ebbs and flows. Betelgeuse is one of those stars, so its brightness ebbs and flows. What does that mean? It means that its brightness changes in a pattern of coming and going. When something ebbs and flows, it's a pattern of coming and going, or higher and lower, in and out, things like that. It's a rhythm, a pattern, a cycle, things like that. The origin of the phrase is with the tides. The tide comes in, the tide goes out, gradually in and out in a similar pattern. Sometimes Betelgeuse will be bright in the sky. Other times, it will be less bright. It's not flashing like a Christmas tree light. It's gradual, a rhythm, a transition. Today it's bright, then it gradually dims over a few weeks, a few months. Then it comes back again. Gradually, it ebbs and flows, gets higher and lower, in and out, up and down. You often say that cultural trends ebb and flow. Take fashion. Sometimes bright colors and bold styles are popular. Then, after a few years, it's back to simpler lines and more muted colors. A few years later, people get bored of that, and bold colors are back. Fashion trends ebb and flow. Political trends often ebb and flow. If you have two main political parties, one will be strong for a while as the other is weak. Then gradually, the one in charge overreaches just when the minority party has had the chance to regroup, and the minority party gradually wins a majority again. 5, 10 years later, the cycle repeats. The fortunes of the parties ebb and flow over time. Religious influence over the centuries ebbs and flows. There are times in world history in which formal religion plays a central part in society. Other times, its influence is diminished. Some people wonder whether the reduction in formal church-going today is part of the normal ebb and flow of human history, or if the pattern has broken. On the same topic, the role religion plays in an individual's life can ebb and flow. A person might be raised in a religious tradition, but gradually lose touch with the church in his early 20s. Then he might find his way back to a religious tradition later in life. There are times when it's a big part of his life, times when it's less prominent. The presence of religion in an individual's life might ebb and flow over that person's lifetime. What else ebbs and flows? Your energy level throughout the day might ebb and flow. Your interest in studying English might ebb and flow. You might assign English a lower priority for a while, but then you come back and focus on it more intensely a few years later. That sometimes happens, right? Okay, you remember the episode we did about Mr. Rogers a few weeks ago. There were two quotes from Fred Rogers that I wanted to choose, and I gave you one of them on that episode, which was episode 216. But there's another one I wanted to share, and it is this. One of the greatest gifts you can give anybody, Mr. Rogers once said, is the gift of your honest self. I really like that one. I think it means that if you pretend to be someone different, something other than who you truly are, then you're robbing people around you of knowing your genuine self. I like that message a lot. Here once more is the quote. One of the greatest gifts you can give anybody is the gift of your honest self. That's it for today. It was great to have you with us for another episode of Plain English. I survived another science-based episode, hopefully without too many mistakes. This is the second, maybe the third episode about astronomy that we've done. If you liked this episode, then you'll want to go back to episode 172 when we talked about the eclipse that crossed over the southern hemisphere. That was 172. I'm starting to get a little more comfortable with scientific topics. I know so many of you are engineers, scientists, doctors, researchers. I need to make sure to give you scientific types something about your fields now and then. The next episode is on Thursday. If you've flown internationally, like long distances, you might have noticed a choice called premium economy. It's supposed to split the difference between economy class in the back and business class in the front of the plane. I'll give you my review of a flight I took in premium economy on a recent trip to Ireland. So that's on Thursday. Make sure to join us then. And if you're serious about improving English in 2020, then I encourage you to check out Plain English Plus. One of the best features of Plain English Plus is our video lesson. With each episode, twice a week, we highlight one little piece of grammar or English usage, and we show you how to use it in a video lesson. And if you think it's just sitting back and watching, it's not. You get to write your own sentences right inside the video. So come check us out at plainenglish.com/plus.